Ms. Baginski, on the watch list, I want to know, just in my time is running out here, about how this works for the average person. Let me give you an example. I got on the watch list last April. I was taking a plane to Boston, and I get out to the U.S. Air, and I come up at 7:15. I want my ticket. They said, we can't give it to you. I said, well, wait a minute, here is a visa, there must have been a mix-up, and the person behind the gate said, I can't sell it to you. You can't buy a ticket to go on the airline to Boston. And I said, well, why not? We can't tell you. Well, I said, let me talk to the supervisor on that. This is at 7:05. The plane's about to leave. And finally, the supervisor said, okay. And I thought it was a mix-up in my office, which it wasn't. And I got to Boston. I said, there's been the mix-up on this thing in Boston. What in the world has ever happened? Is this what happened? Tried to get on the plane back to Washington. You can't get on the plane. I went up to the desk. I said, I've been getting on this plane, you know, for 42 years. And why can't I get on the plane back to Boston, back to Washington? They said, you can't get on the plane back to Washington. So my administrative assistant talked to the Department of Homeland Security, and they said there's some mistake. It happened 3 more times, and finally Secretary Ridge called to apologize on it. It happened even after he called to apologize because they couldn't, my name was on the list at the airports and with the airlines and the Homeland Security. He couldn't get my name off the list for a period of weeks. Now, if they have that kind of difficulty for a member of Congress, they have it. My office has a number of instances where we had the leader of a distinguished medical school in New England, and the list goes on. How in the world are average Americans who are going to get caught up in this kind of thing, how are they going to be able to be treated fairly and not have their rights abused? And then just finally, if you can just tell us what the justification was for the investigations of those FBI agents out in Colorado with the 6 agents interviewing that 21-year-old woman that's been reported in the paper. Thank you.
I'll deal with the last issue first because I think I can deal with that more succinctly. We have read the New York Times representation of our activities and compared that to the actual activities. We do not, as you know, we engaged in interviews of people based on specific intelligence that they plan to perpetrate violent acts at both the Democratic National Convention, and we're also looking at the Republican National Convention in that dimension. There are many of you who I think are rightly concerned about that in light of the press treatment. What we have offered to other committees and what we'd like to offer to you is a written accounting, step by step, of what was done so we can separate fact from fiction on this and hopefully ease your concerns and those of the American people.
We would appreciate that.
I'd like one.
Yes, sir. On the issue of
How about the conspiracy to stop Senator Kennedy from getting where he wants to go?
Notice I didn't accuse the Republicans of doing that.
No, but it was implied. We know.
I think actually the answer to that is a combination of the two of us. Asa, do you want to start? And I will.
If I might.
Okay.
And Senator, we do regret that inconvenience to you.
No problem.
Asa, quit smiling when you say that.
We've had this problem with Irish terrorists before. I don't know.
It is important for the average citizen to know the process that they can call our TSA ombudsman, who will take the information down, verify that their name is not the same as what's confusingly similar on the list, and we can actually enter into the database that they have been cleared so that that should be prevented in the future. And so there is a process to clear names, but it does illustrate the importance of improving the whole system, which we are very aggressively working to do. We need to own that no-fly list. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Ms.
Time is
Baginski.
up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, just to complete the part of it, in terms of the responsibility for the authoritative list, of course, on the international side resides with the TTIC, the Terrorist Threat Integration Centers, so the vetting of those names. And then, of course, for the domestic side would come from the FBI, and those are fused, I think, as you know, in the Terrorist Screening Center. So I do have some responsibility for the pedigree of that information that comes from intelligence, and want to assure you that we review that on a regular basis.
Thank you. Senator DeWine.